Hey, welcome to the first preseason BGN Radio instant reaction show. Be above board real quick. Be sure to subscribe to BGN Radio on your podcast platform of choice. Leave a review, write a nice rating, really gas us up. But here to talk about the Eagles' first preseason game, a 24-16 home loss to the Steelers. I'm joined by Jess Taylor. Jess, what's up?
How are you? Staying cool after being at the Eagles game in the heat.
Yeah, I was at the Phillies game in 107 degrees, I think was the heat check or whatever it's called.
I think it was.
Yeah.
God bless. God bless. You were out in the sun. I was at least after sundown. That's out in the sun. That's a real champ for the Phils today.
Yeah, I thought I was going to go to the Eagles game, but ended up not because of the podcast and everything that was out earlier at the Phillies game. I just didn't want to be drenched in sweat for 8 hours.
Makes sense.
But when I was there, I saw it did seem like it was a little shady, and I would have gotten lucky rather than, in the sweltering sun all for 4 hours at the Phillies.
But it was a win for the Phils at least, so that's all that matters.
A win for the Phillies. Not a win for the Eagles.
No.
On the scoreboard. But I still think for the first half and for the key contributors and starters on offense and defense, I think you look at this week as a win.
I agree. So what are some of the things that I think we can both agree, most people can agree, starters on both sides, 2 series on offense, pretty content with what you're seeing on both of those sides of the ball there. What are some things that really stuck out to you as positives, positive takeaways, things that you're excited to see more about, things that you're excited to see once the season really starts and things really get moving?
I think everyone's attention is turned to Jalen Hurts. He's kind of a divisive figure in the Eagles world, whether that's with fans, media members, or really within the organization itself. The way they haven't necessarily committed to him as being the long-term starter, where they might think maybe the coaches are known, maybe the front office isn't, and maybe the owner is. There's a lot of things going on there. But I think the worst thing that could have happened was they come out and having 3 and out, and everyone's freaking out. Obviously, it's the preseason. Did a podcast last week on From the Bleachers about how we all went gaga, crazy, hype beast mode over the 2015 preseason with Chip and Sam Bradford. So you can't draw, really hard, concrete conclusions.
Sure.
But having that kind of start after sort of discord and the offseason with the Eagles being linked to Deshaun Watson, and you see things, written every day where the offense is consistently inconsistent during training camp.
Right.
But to see them get a couple first downs, what stood out for me for Hurts was I'm a Hurts fan. I feel like I'm the token one in a sense at BGN. I'm the one proponent where you feel like BLG is pretty out on him and other people are kind of they don't know. But what he needs to improve most on, and it's kind of an obvious thing, is for any quarterback is quick throws, going through his progressions and hitting on those early progressions, and his accuracy over the field, over the middle of the field, and on those intermediate routes. We know he throws a great deep ball. We know he's electric, scrambling around, making something out of nothing, making plays with his legs, and working as a rusher as a quarterback. I mean, I don't think it'd be unreasonable for him to top 800-900 rushing yards this season if he plays the entire season. But the difference between that and having the Eagles go on a successful run this year is going to be him in the pocket. And it was on that he had 3 throws that were in the middle of the field. 2 to Zach Ertz. 1 was dropped that would have been a first down and third down. Kind of hit him right in the chest. Should have been. And then had a nice little crossing route for Dallas Goedert that was a big 15, 20-yard chunk play. So it wasn't a huge sample size, very small sample size. But the things I needed to see Hurts excel in actual game speed against a different defense, not the one he's going up against every play, in full tackle, which they haven't done at all this offseason. It was a win for him in my book. I know they only got a field goal out of that second drive. They didn't go 3 and out on the second drive, got a first down, but ended up punting. 2 drives for Hurts, 3 for 7, but 2 drops. And I would say he throws a great deep ball, but a misfire on that deep ball to Quez Watkins that should have been a 98-yard touchdown. But I'm good with his deep ball. I'm not as good with his intermediate throws over the middle of the field. So to see him excel there, I know he has the deep ball in his bag once the season starts.
Yeah, I think that you're absolutely correct. And I think the accuracy was one of the biggest issues I had with him. And that's something that I hope he can improve on. Something else for him is looking comfortable in the pocket. And I thought today, where I totally agree it was a win for him, was he looked like he wasn't itching to take off every single time he felt somebody's breath down his neck. And that's something that, I hate to bring it up, but like that's something with Carson Wentz that was always one of those biggest things that we kept saying. Like it was the inability to get rid of the ball and the inability to just kind of hang out in the pocket and trust what you've got going on around you. Jalen, after 4 games last year, that was one of my biggest complaints, is that he constantly was just trying to take off and run. And that's something that if you were going to move on, you needed to get rid of a little bit. And I thought that he looked way more comfortable back there. Wasn't, he was moving when he needed to, but didn't look like he had that itch to just constantly take off. I completely agree. Still with the accuracy, though, that's something that's going to really need to improve. I really hope we don't have another issue with drops again. I don't know if my mental sanity can handle that. I really, really thought that there was one from Tyree Jackson that hit him right in the hands, and he dropped it, and then he came back with three quick catches after that. So bounced back really well from that one. So we hope that that's what can happen to these guys when they have a ball hit them in the hands and they drop it. I just hope it doesn't end up being this contagious thing again. But same thing. I mean, you love what you're seeing out of someone like Jordan Mailata to help kind of protect that on the one side. There were a couple missed blocks by Nate Herbig today on the left side, and Jordan Mailata had a hand on 2 people and really held it down out there. So I thought that was something really positive to see today. What is your take on who should start at left tackle?
I think it's the idea that it was a competition. Even before Dillard's injury, he didn't play. He's week to week with a knee sprain, I believe. Mm-hmm. And so that kind of takes him out of the running. But the idea that I was in a running or a competition to begin with, I think was kind of a joke. I think they felt kind of stuck because they traded up draft capital to take Dillard in the first round, whereas Mailata was this, lottery ticket they grabbed in the 7th round, coming off a Super Bowl, kind of smelling themselves a little bit. Hey, let's take a rugby player and turn him into an all-pro left tackle. Wouldn't that be funny if we did that? And actually, Jeff Stoutland is the best positional coach in the NFL, and he might actually do that with Jordan Mailata right here. So I think it's Mailata, but I think having Mailata in there, and actually that whole offensive line unit, during the broadcast, they said it, Lane Johnson and Brandon Brooks hadn't played next to each other since 2019. Having that actual real offensive line after all of the struggles that were there, they had a million different offensive line combinations in 2020. To have the legit starting offensive line with Mailata, Ike, Kelsey, Brooks, and Lane, I think that's why you saw Jalen Hurts have success throwing the ball early and not get those happy feet, because he was able to throw the ball clearly because it was great pass blocking right there.
Has it really been since 2009? That's insane. I didn't realize it had been that long since they were actually lined up next to each other. With the way their injuries, they were like hit and miss. Wow.
Yeah, because Brooks got hurt in that the Giants week 16 or week 17 game in 2019, and he didn't play in that Seattle playoff game.
Right.
And then he tore his Achilles during off-season workouts last off-season. I feel like he tears his Achilles, and then 3 weeks later he's on Instagram Live doing squat, one leg jumping jacks. It's just he's the most medical marvel ever, but he's back. And I still, even though he's had a couple big injuries the last couple of seasons, I'm still convinced that when he's playing, when he's on the field, he's an all-pro caliber right guard. And again, the Eagles' offensive line is getting a little older, especially when you're getting from center to right guard to right tackle. But again, they have brand notoriety as much as you can for an offensive lineman, because of how good they've been for so long and how much they've angered this unit when they're all playing and all together. So I think Jalen Hurts has some issues he's going to need to work through. Nick Sirianni's going to need to help him work through them. Mm-hmm. Brian Johnson, Shane Steichen, all of those guys. But having those 3 core guys, especially a developing Mailata, like everyone's saying, had an unbelievable camp, really only played football for the first time in a real live contest last season. Looks like he really could be a Pro Bowl player. So we're hopefully getting some on the up and up at receiver. Dallas Goedert, maybe Tyree Jackson sneaks on the roster and ends up being a role player, having a real rotation role this season. But I think that offensive line is going to be huge, as you said, with Hurts not having those happy feet, not trying to run automatically, not trying to be a run-first quarterback, but actually go through his progressions and hit those tight windows over the middle of the field like he did to Goddard and Hurts at different times on that first drive.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think, first of all, Tyree Jackson is an enormous human. Him standing in the huddle, like he's an enormous human being. It's kind of outrageous to watch him like just stand out there next to other people on the Eagles roster because he's absolutely huge. So I think that they're going to try to figure out a way to keep him, whether it be on the practice squad or something. They're going to try to keep him here in some capacity. They're trying to transform this kid. And I think there's something that he could offer in a few years. I don't know if he's going to be ready now, maybe special teams, but nothing, nothing that a guy like a veteran of Richard Rodgers isn't going to give you and provide for you when you need someone else there. I think that, Jalen Hurts able to sort of find the tight ends, which is something that was a complaint that he couldn't do as well. That's, looking like it's coming well on the other side of that. I do like our young talent at wide receiver. Obviously, it's a disappointment that we can't see Devontae Smith out there right now. And that's, you still saw some electricity from some of the young receivers tonight without Devontae Smith.
Quez, man, he's legit.
He's so fast. Like there was I thought he was moving and then there was just another gear and he flew. He's fast.
I'm obviously not comparing them as players, but that run and the way that the Steelers defensive backs had such a clear angle at him, reminds me of like one of those classic Randy Moss on Thanksgiving against the Cowboys runs where like, okay, obviously this guy's going to tap on right here. And then before you know it, he's like literally 60, 70 yards downfield and scoring. So
right.
He should have two 79-plus yard touchdowns. We talked about that throw that Hurts was a little off on.
Yeah.
When they were 1st and 10 from their own 2-yard line. Talk about how excited the Lynx seemed on that, short pass from Flacco and that huge run by Quez. I couldn't imagine, and you were there, what the reaction would have been if Hurts dialed up a bomb to Quez that went literally 98 yards. They go up 10-0 automatically, and that place is, people are going into the casino across the street and putting in bets from to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah. I mean, it's insane because, one of the biggest complaints I've personally had over the last 2 years and looking back, especially on, some of the other, Doug Peterson offenses going back to the Chiefs as well. One of the biggest complaints of all of them has been the wide receivers' inability to get separation. And it's the route combos, it's the play calls, it's all of the different things. There were a lot of things that went into it, but Quez Watkins is a guy who is fast enough that it doesn't matter because he can create that separation. And if he can become a reliable target for Jalen Hurts and Jalen can, be sure to hit him on some of those different routes, there could be a lot of really explosive plays on that side. Forget about Devontae Smith on the other side. And, we'll see what, Jalen Reagor had a nice catch tonight. He has the worst luck on planet Earth returning punts. I don't know what it is because
I don't want him back there. I don't want him back there.
I don't either.
I don't think it should be Greg Ward, who is like the most boring punt returner of all time. I wouldn't want to use Smith unless it was like, a fourth quarter game in December, like the way the Eagles would use, Deshaun Jackson and American Meadowlands or Wes Crooks sparingly because like it's a huge high leverage situation. I'd never want Smith back there to begin with, given his frame, even though how electric he is, especially not now coming off of this injury that he's dealing with right now. But they need to find out. That's an entirely different discussion. But new special teams coordinator in here, Michael Clay. I'm kind of interested to see how they go the returners, whether it's a situation where they keep a guy like Jason Huntley because they like him as a kick returner. If the Quez ends up only being their second or third receiver, and do they put him back there as a kick returner and punt returner too? Yeah.
I mean, we'll see. I think it'll be really interesting to see who they put back there. Quez was back there returning kicks tonight. Again, with how quick he is. And I think that's the logic behind Reagor as well, with how quick he can be. I haven't seen him outside of, there was one return for a touchdown last year, right? And it was like
the Green Bay game.
Yeah, so the first one since Darren Sproles in, what was it, 2014? I mean, it was like a crazy amount of time in between the last one before then. But it just looks like, I think you can make an argument for that being the right decision both times and the bounce just being bad. But I feel like in a 50-50 situation, he always makes the wrong decision. And it's hard because I want so badly for him to be successful. I really do. I want him to do well. I want him to shut everybody up who is, because the Justin Jefferson thing, it sucks. It does. But I want him to be successful, and sometimes he makes it so hard.
The idea of expectations based on where a player was drafted and how that kind of confiscates and makes us think and view players in different ways is huge at two positions for me. Andre Dillard, a first-round pick. They traded off for him. We're Jordan Mailata, this fun story, a seventh rounder, like we talked about, this guy who never played football before. Obviously, it's a lot easier to see this guy who's just kind of starting to play football. You have low expectations for succeeding. You want to root for him. Whereas Dillard comes in and doesn't really play as a rookie, misses an entire second season. Seems to have. I'm back.
Oh,
Did
there
you
we
miss
go.
me on that? Yeah, sorry.
A little bit.
Sorry, I was like, I didn't want to start moving my arms and screaming in case it was still left there, and like Rachel was going to have to do like the F-bomb alert. But real quick, just to finish up, like we think Andre Dillard stinks because we expected him to be a superstar immediately, whereas Mailata is a pleasant surprise. And I think the same thing can be said about Reagor and Quez. Like, Quez is a pleasant surprise because he was a sixth-round pick, and it feels like, if Quez Watkins was the first-round pick and Jalen Reagor play was the sixth-round pick, you would expect their play to be like this over the last, training camp and towards the end of last season. Questlove, I like that. Questlove, that should be like that's a T-shirt outside the stadium waiting to happen.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure. And I totally agree with you. It's and the thing with Andre Dillard is I think that was one that obviously the Texans were pretty hell-bent on getting him. And they, if the Eagles really wanted him, they made the right decision to trade up and get him because he wouldn't have been there when they were picking. Fine. But, and I think we all saw that there were some holes there, that there were things that needed to be worked on. And I think that we knew that we were going to be in an interesting kind of spot with that. But I still think that knowing there were things that needed to be worked on, he has still underwhelmed a lot. And I think the injury keeping him out for an entire year, that really hurt his progression as well. And that's really unfortunate. But then you go to the other side with, I mean, you could only write the 2020 draft knowing how the Philadelphia Eagles operate. You can only write the way that unfolded with that 21st pick, knowing how Howie Roseman and the Eagles have always operated. And just the fact of, how it happened. Now, do I think that Justin Jefferson would have had the season here last year with that abysmal football team that he had in Minnesota? Absolutely not. I think we would be screaming and shouting in the same way. But it's just, and I think that, I don't know what it is. I think that unfortunately, Jalen has also said some things on social media, done some things that make him less likable to a portion of the fan base, which I think has also played negatively to him as well.
Sure. Probably needs to get
or whatever. It's a 22-year-old kid. You gotta understand it. But some people just don't like that.
Yeah, you should probably stop reading the Markelle Fultz Philadelphia social media handbook. I would advise him to do that. It looked like he got off social media, which I think, like, if I was a professional athlete, I wouldn't want to be on it. And I know sometimes you kind of have to be for your brand and stuff like that. But it seems like the less you're on there in that, which is kind of unfair because they are still normal people who want to, look at Twitter and F around and stuff like that. But it comes with the territory of being.
It's unfortunate. And in a city like this, I hate to use that sometimes. Like people just you don't
mean it negatively. It's just like read the room kind of is more so than like, these people are terrible. No, just like, talk to literally anyone else on the team when you get here and like get the vibe of like how to act on social media. And not saying like he's done anything specifically that's very wrong.
No,
but just kind of read the room,
honestly.
it sucks for him where he should probably, whether it's the team or the PR staff or the agent, whatever, to kind of nudge him the right way with that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do. It's a group of people that are just really passionate and emotional about what's going on. Like, I cried walking into the link today. Why? Why did I do that? Because I was so emotional because I hadn't been there since January of 2020 when they got their butts handed to them by the Seattle Seahawks. They were abysmal.
Last time I was there.
Like, they were horrible last year. They took such an emotional toll on my life last year. They took years off my life, and I was still so happy. I cried walking in there today. I don't know what it is, but that's just that's what sports are in Philadelphia in a nutshell. And, I hate to say like, oh, it's not for everyone to play here, because I don't agree with that. And I think that that's the cop out, but
self-fulfilling prophecy kind of.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So we talked a lot about the offense. I do want to talk about the defense because they are actually what worry me more.
Really? You think just the depth aspect more so than the starters?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the Eagles have been an injured team, like really, really injured over the last couple years. And I don't know what switch we have to flip that makes that stop. But once you, please do it. Once you get away from, so I think the line depth is there. The line depth has been there. That's not been a concern for the last 4 or 5 years.
My whole life, I feel like.
Yes. Let's put it that way. The line depth has never been a concern for the defensive line. Once you get behind there, Rodney McLeod coming off another torn ACL. Kayvon Wallace is currently hurt. Anthony Harris was a really good, underrated signing for them. But in addition to that, once you get outside of a Darius Slay and a Steven Nelson, we're back to the Michael Jacquet experiment, which I don't enjoy.
No.
It's an unpleasant time.
I think you got to hope that Zach McPherson has this like 2013 Brandon Boykin type rookie or like second year role where he actually shines a little bit, in his first year or two of his career. And actually, whether he's a long-time piece or not, just adds like, Nelson's banged up. They're both older cornerbacks in Slay and Nelson. He's going to get time on the field regardless of whether they're hurt or not. And I'd much rather roll with the unknown, so to speak, or the promise of McPherson than see Jacquet on the field. I feel like that Dallas game last year and the Cardinals game, there's maybe the two best receiving cores in the league, so I get it. But at the same time, they were just absolutely destroyed on every level in the secondary.
Yeah,
with guys like that out there.
And you can see the flashes there. You see the glimpses of what McPherson can do. He was always in the frame when something was happening on defense once he was on the field. But then there's going to be the small little mistakes, like the pass interference in the end zone. You have to give and take with those. Just being a rookie, it's the nature of the beast, unfortunately. And him just being young, when they do match up with the Dallas receiving cores and when they match up with some of these other teams that they're playing this year, think about it. They play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at one point.
Maybe they're the best receiving core. You know what I mean? Dallas is right there.
They play the Chargers at one point. Yeah. They've got good receivers.
Kansas City?
They've got some pretty good talent there too. They play a lot of teams this year that have really, really good receiving cores. And
basically every other team has a good receiving core besides here, it feels like. You could almost say.
Sure. Yeah, we could say that. And, and exactly what you said. They're older corners, especially if they're like, they get burnt deep downfield or something. You're going to need to bring in someone else to give them a break. There are going to be some rotational guys in there. And, as soon as you put the rookie out there, it sucks. But that's, the best way to learn, I guess. Throw them into the deep end and hope they can swim. But, the depth everywhere but the line really, really concerns me. And it's really hard to get depth when you have salary cap issues, which brings us back to public enemy number one. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it all goes back to it, and it just sucks. Because there's gonna be a time where we're gonna be sitting there and we're like, what is this yet again? Would it have been such a crime to draft Asante Samuel Jr.?
I think Landon Dickerson's going to be awesome, but I wanted him so bad. Like my ideal draft was the first round Smith, Asante Jr., and Milton Williams. So like as much as like a Howie hater I am, I wrote in like a mailbag back in March or April that if he drafted those three people as his first three picks, I would have written like and issued a huge public apology, and it came so close to happening.
Yeah, I don't know if I could ever get to that point. I would
have just been so happy that he selected those guys that I would have just done it like, you know, ate crow and been happy to have the complaint about it. Like I was really anti Nick Foles when he took back over in 2017. And I had like a bunch of negative tweets like, oh, they should literally sign anyone, go sign Kaepernick, go bring Tony Romo out of the booth, any of these things. And then I didn't have as much as like I had a decent following on Twitter, but it's not the same right now. We're writing for BGN and stuff.
Right.
And like February or March, someone was like, oh, how about this tweet, dude? Like, sucks Nick Foles went Super Bowl. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, do you think I'm mad that the tweet's wrong and then I was wrong about Nick Foles? Yeah. It was the greatest thing of all time. I mean, so stuff like that.
Never happened to me.
Yeah. So if like Jalen Hurts, that pick I thought was out. I mean, every person that's an Eagles fan was blindsided like by a Mack truck with the Hurts pick, but if he ends up being, you know, Pro Bowl quarterback, Howie, you're the GOAT again, you know, stuff like that. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm never at this point. I don't think I can change my stance on it just because of just some of the things that have gone around about just who he is as a person. Like, forget about who he is as a GM, just who he is as a person. I can't. And I was like, once he drafted Devontae Smith, but here's the thing. They trade up, right? And I'm still sitting there with my head in my hands because I am so prepared for him to ruin that anyway. Like, that's a problem. So I'm sitting there like this. And then I said, okay, I won't say a bad word about him for the next 24 hours. And then we get to the second round. And I'm like, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, we're back. Everything is back to normal. The world is right again. I hope that I think he could be awesome if injury concerns are real. I still would have.
I mean, he's a classic Eagle already with that.
You're right. He fits right in. It's great.
Yeah.
I do think I would have preferred Asante Samuel there.
Same.
It is what it is. We'll see. I mean, it's another second round pick who they do have a lot of depth on the offensive line as well. And they have a lot of depth with guys that they do need to keep around given injury concerns and injury history. So he's one who I could see maybe they put on the PUP, maybe they put on the IR just to not use that roster spot and just let him have the year. But again, like, would it have been such a crime to draft somebody in the second round that could immediately make an impact or help you?
Not great to redshirt a guard of all positions.
Right.
Offensive tackle, defensive end, maybe quarterback. I don't really know about a second round guard.
Right. Like, why do we do this? I mean, it's unfortunate. There's another aspect of the defense that I would love to get your thoughts on. So the struggle with admitting defeat on first round picks, we talked about already with the left tackle situation, right?
Yeah.
So they are listed as co-starters, Andre Dillard and Jordan Mailata.
Yeah.
So are Derek Barnett and Josh Sweat. And it's the same thing. A first round pick who, like, he hasn't been bad. It's just first round pick, you expect more than sort of what he's given you since his rookie year.
Exactly.
And
if Josh Sweat was a first round pick, we would be lower on Josh Sweat. And if Derek Barnett was a fourth round pick, we'd be higher on Derek Barnett. Yeah, I mean, like everyone's like, who do we going to just like the Davion Taylor last year wasting picks? Yeah, the Davion Taylor played 32 defensive snaps as a rookie, as a linebacker on a day two pick. A day two pick, a linebacker, which you don't really want to give those guys second contracts. So you want to give them as much run as possible on that rookie deal. Basically blew a year of that contract with 32 defensive snaps. And maybe it's a thing where Jonathan Gannon might use him more. Maybe the pick looks a little bit better this year, but the pick wasn't made in mind with Jonathan Gannon in mind. Howie Roseman might not have even met him before at that point in time. Whereas, again, that kind of just speaks to a miscommunication between the coaching staff and the front office that has existed, since, a long time since Andy Reid was here, really since Howie's been here overall. I wanted to say Doug, but then I was like, well, we forgot about how crazy Howie and Chip were. And then I was like, oh, well, actually, it goes back to Andy too.
Right. And not to mention, I mean, Davion Taylor's hurt right now. He's also week to week.
I thought he was going to get. He seemed like he was going to have a good. He was having a good camp. I thought this preseason would have been perfect. Whereas he's not a starter, but you would ideally like him to be a starter by the end of the year, and he could have played at least in this game a quarter, or maybe 2 quarters, or close to 3 quarters.
Yeah, and he's unfortunately hurt, and they have, more guys that could fill that role of just being speedy and running to the ball. I mean, like there's somebody that can easily edge him out, and it's again, it goes exactly what you said. It goes right back to wasting, picks on players that can't be helpful to you and can't be helpful to you right away. I mean, so who do you think does end up getting the start then? Josh Sweat or Derek Barnett?
I think they give it, I think they want Barnett to take it the way that, obviously everyone likes him a lot more. And I don't mean just fans. I think clearly within the organization and the coaching staff and stuff. But at the organization as a whole, on a macro level, wants Taylor to win that job because of what they invested in him. And I think it's similar with Derek Barnett. Whereas, again, I don't know Jonathan Gannon like that. I know for a fact that Jim Schwartz absolutely, absolutely loved Derek Barnett. And if he was still here, it would have been clear. So I don't really know yet, but the fact that he gets that nod right away, I think, is telling that he will be the official starter this year. For the end of the year, I think their snap counts, the way the Eagles have always rotated their edge rushers, and because of the depth they have there, they want to keep these guys fresh all year round. And Barnett and Sweat have missed games with injuries in the past. I think they're going to get pretty close to snap count in either direction, regardless of who's the one who actually has, more starts on their, Pro Football Reference page or whatever.
Yeah, I think they do. I agree. I think they've got enough guys there to be able to continue to rotate and keep guys fresh as long as they're able to get guys on and off the field. Which, and again, that's never been the concern. The concern has been how much they rely on the front four, and it's just lacking on the back end, and that's unfortunately still a concern. One of the biggest issues last year was the inability to create takeaways. And if you're not able to, get a sack on the quarterback and at all there, that's 50% of what you might be able to get from a takeaway right there. So, I mean, you're hopeful that they can generate some turnovers there. Unfortunately, I think one of the biggest things we've seen coming out of camp is that Eagles offense is not great, or the defense is really good, or the Eagles defense is really bad, and the offense is really good. They're so inconsistent coming out right now. And I think one of the things that was one of the biggest issues last year was consistency in any capacity. I'm not expecting a huge success of a year. I think they've got a lot of young players and they're trying to figure it out, a new coaching staff. But in the division, I don't think anything's out of reach.
Yeah, it's the NFC East. Anything can happen.
Anything can happen. So in the next week, last question.
Yeah, well, I was saying, to finish up, what do you want to see in the preseason, week 2, next Thursday night, at home again against the Patriots? What are, 1 or 2 things that you hope to see as we wrap up the show right now?
I hope to see a complete drive with a touchdown from Jalen Hurts in the offense. Number 1,
I don't care what else happens the entire game. I don't care if Bane comes out onto the field. I need that to happen.
Yeah, I want a complete drive, a well-called drive, a well-executed drive. I understand that part of what they've got going for them going into the season is sort of this element of surprise with their offense that no one knows what's coming. I'm totally on board with some vanilla play calls. It's preseason. I get that. But I would like to see this team, these starters, put together one complete drive. And I don't mean a complete drive of
like a 1 yard, 80-yard, one play, 80-yard pass drive. Not that.
I'll
take that. I'll take the fun because I think I'm going to go next Thursday. So I'll take the fun of them actually hitting that Quez Watkins deep ball. But I definitely know what you mean, because you want to see him making a variety of different throws and plays. That's not just, okay, we know he can throw the deep ball. We know he can do that well. Let's see him actually handle a 3rd and 6, handle a 3rd and 7, handle a 3rd and 8.
Yeah, I mean, get a couple first downs on a drive instead of one on one drive and one on the next drive. And while I understand, I'll let me throw a Giselle in there. He can't throw and catch the ball. He can't do both. Everyone else needs to do their job as well. But I would like to see one cohesive unit drive down the field and score. I would love to see that. I would also like to see on the defensive end, I would like to see the spacing cohesion a little bit better from the guys the younger guys that are obviously not the starters. I need to see a little bit more discipline from some of those players. There were a lot of penalties. There were a lot of people out of position. There was one really true like busted coverage, and that was on that wide open touchdown. But there were a couple others where guys were just out of place, looking confused. I need to see a little bit more structure going on from the younger guys that are going to fill those roster holes and then are going to be on the practice squad that who knows when they might need to be plucked from.
I like it. Definitely we need a great Hurts performance. Not great, just having like a great moment to hang your hat on. I'm not saying he needs to throw 300 yards or something like that. Just like something to hang your hat on and say, hey, that was the second preseason game. We have one left. We know he looked okay. He looked pretty good in week 1, and then you had something that's really sustainable and we could build off of in week 2. Also like to see a Milton Williams sack. Was collapsed in the pocket a couple of times. Very high on him going to the draft. So definitely things to look forward to. And with the season where the expectations aren't Super Bowl heavy, it's fun to have a little fun with the kind of the smaller moments of football this season as we kind of find smaller things to enjoy or root for beyond. Obviously, we are all going to be rooting for, wins like crazy, but there's just other elements you could pick up when it's not Super Bowl or bust.
I hope to have fun again and have the Eagles bring me a little bit.
The offense and defense, their style seems fun. I say because the defensive line's going to have the quarterback, and Hurts is a fun quarterback. Doesn't mean he's actually going to be a great quarterback, but a running quarterback kind of has an inherent flair and fun to it that you don't see from a stature quarterback. I don't mean Carson Wentz in that way because he was able to do some of those things before he suffered a few injuries, but. And
it's a guy that has the swag that Jalen Hurts does.
I mean,
brings that
look
kind of energy.
Got the Friday Night Lights walking in shirt for Hurts.
I was gonna wear I did get the one that was on Devontae Smith's website.
Oh, I have that too.
I got it. I was gonna wear it tonight. There was too much material to it.
It's like that heathery material where if I wore it, it would be clear that you were like soaked when it's 100 degrees.
Drenched. Yeah. So it wasn't going to do that, but that will come out at some point.
Yeah. That wraps it up for us. Jess, where can we follow you on social media?
You can follow me on my new Twitter handle, which I have to read because I don't.
That's why I want to make sure. I didn't want to mess up the Twitter handle.
I wouldn't have remembered it. I would have given my old one. I've had that one for 10 years. It's really different. So at Jessie_Taylor21, Jessie has no E on it, just JESSI, where you can follow me on Twitter. Continuing on Bleeding Green Nation with Babes on Broad as well. We'll get back to starting that as the season starts. And that's where you can find me and all of my good stuff with Eagles and other Philly sports content.
Yeah, and be sure to follow and subscribe to our YouTube page. We're broadcasting and streaming live on there. We should be doing that all season long. My podcast from the Bleacher is always streaming live on YouTube before it actually goes up in your podcast feed. So if you like the show, you like any of our shows, be sure to subscribe on there. We'll be doing some fun content and YouTube-specific content as the season moves forward. And again, we love BGN Radio. Jess and I each have shows on the network. We'll be having an instant reaction show this season with, we're not sure who's actually on it right now, but we will have great content from all of our great contributors across the network. So again, subscribe, follow, leave a good review, thumbs up on YouTube, leave a positive comment. We don't like negative comments. No. But again, thank you. 26-16 loss?
Something like that.
26-16?
24-16?
24-16.
24.
I'll take it. 24-16.
Yep.
Feels like a win for the first team.
For the starters, it was a win. That's for sure.
Yeah. All right. That's it for me. Keep bleeding green.